And we're live. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, Tess.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Oh, great. Who is that you are sharing your couch and floor with?
This
Yeah,
is
but
Blaze right here, little cat.
wow.
She was a street cat from Brooklyn that I rescued
Oh,
about 12 years ago, and this is Beep right here. I just rescued Beep in January, and she is a really really pretty little girl. She's very very shy, but
hmm.
she's getting along really well with me and Blaze and my other dog Henry.
That
Beautiful.
is fabulous. Okay, let's jump into it, Glenn. Congratulations on this new move, this new position, and this new organization that you're with. Please tell us about them.
Thank you. Yeah, it's National Mill Dog Rescue. And thanks, Tess, for the banner. That's the website, nmdr.org. And we now uh, have a mission to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome puppy mill survivors, and also to educate the public on the really cruel realities of the dog breeding industry. And so it's a challenging job, and there's a lot to do to help these dogs because in many many cases they are very traumatized for lots of reasons.
And they can be traumatized from from actual physical abuse, et cetera, torture. I mean, I have to call it torture if they're denied food or companionship and all that. But the other thing is that maybe they've never even had human contact. Is that true too?
That's right. A lot of these breeding dogs spend most of their lives in cramped cages. Often they're stacked one on top of the other with just wire floors so that the pee and poop just drop through. They
Hmm.
are in crowded conditions. They often receive no medical care whatsoever. We'll get dogs that are missing all of their teeth or who have rotten teeth. They may have all kinds of they can have diseases, they can have infections. They often have sores. Um, they rarely, well, they often don't have access to fresh food and water. And so, and then of course they're chronically stressed because they're in a situation where they're again crammed into these cages and they're just breeding machines. The females essentially just are expected to have a litter of puppies every 6 months, and then once they are past their breeding prime, they're simply discarded.
Hmm.
And so there's all kinds of ways that the dogs are stressed out, and it does cause all kinds of medical issues, obviously. And there's a lot of again, obviously a lot of behavioral baggage that comes from it as well, both because of the neglect and the lack of socialization. We talked about puppy socialization last time we
Yeah,
were here streaming live, and
yeah.
obviously a lot of these breeder dogs don't receive any socialization as puppies. They're just used to make new puppies. And so as a result, many of them are very, very fearful. Some of them have never been outside. Some of them have never been or rarely been touched by a human. The only times they may be touched is when they are, when they're giving birth, or around that time. And they they may have a bad, may have bad experiences too. Obviously, under circumstances like that, there is potential for all sorts of bad experiences. And
This is
so,
this is. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt at
go
all.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's okay.
Well, this is a question because, and actually, it's more of a statement because this is not just, happening in Asia for breeding dogs. This is also, what you just said. It reminds me of the beagles that I've worked with that are coming out of research labs right here in the United
Me
States
too.
that
Yeah.
have never, had the touch of a human or felt grass under their feet. And so these research animals right here in the United States being used in the labs for tobacco, cosmetic research, and other things. It's
Hmm.
not you know, again, this is a very difficult conversation for people to have. It's a very difficult topic for people to listen to because we love our dogs. We can't imagine that this really does happen, and it does. And then what happens is we end up with that traumatized, unsocialized, stressed out dog in our living room because somehow they've come through the system. And so again, I just want to, you know, broaden the conversation that it's not just breeders, it's hoarding situations, it's other rescues, it's
big companies.
It's what?
Big companies, like you were mentioning with the Beagles. Same. It's happening here in the United States.
Yeah. And that's why, I love that national mill dog. Love that. So
all of the dogs that we get are from the U.S., from breeders in the U.S.
Wow. Whoa. And you got, I read on your website, you have rescued and rehabilitated, etc. I think, is it 15,000 dogs?
We passed the 15,000 mark last year.
Congratulations. Wow. 15,000 rescued.
Yes. So these dogs, they're all from commercial breeders in the United States. We run rescues when we call them rescues, we go out with our vehicles, and they're often multi-day trips traveling around the country to places as far as Pennsylvania. And we get the dogs that are going to be discarded and bring them back to Peyton, which is outside of Colorado Springs, which is where our shelter is.
How can people become aware? I always like to say, we vote with our dollars. I read the labels of the clothes that I wear because I did see HSUS did an amazing investigative study in China in the apparel industry years ago, and ever since then it's like, I cannot. So how can we, as really, let's be honest, dog consumers. In other words, if I'm out looking for a dog and how do we not support that industry in our own way?
It's simple. Don't buy puppies from pet stores. It's that
simple.
Now, and that is where the puppy mill industry makes its money, is pet stores, retail stores that'll have cute little puppies in the window. And they're selling them. Now, the alternatives are, of course, going to a reputable breeder, and that's something you have to be careful of too, because there's a lot of breeders out there, backyard breeders, and breeders that don't have the best practices for the welfare of the dogs in mind, and also, for that matter, for the health of the puppies that they're selling and the quality of life that they'll have with their families. So a good breeder, if you're going to use a breeder, will always let you come and meet the puppy's parents, let you see their facility, let you see where they're keeping the dogs and how they keep the dogs. They will give you details on their socialization program. That is what they've done with the puppies since they were born. They won't let the puppies go until they're at least 8 weeks old. And so those are the things you want to look for in a breeder. Now, of course, my preference is to rescue. There's plenty of puppies in rescue, and there's plenty of adult dogs in rescue too, just like Beep here, and who need help. And I would encourage people to look for puppies and adult dogs that need homes, because there's many millions of puppies and adult dogs that in shelters that need homes, and there's millions of people that want to get dogs every year too, and so if we can just match those two up together, then we would really mitigate a lot of the homeless pet problem in the U.S.
What are your other red flags for going to a reputable breeder? I've heard that definitely about meeting both parents, meeting both the father and the mother of the litter. What about age? What if they're 6 months old and still there at the breeders?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that a reputable breeder will also take responsibility for the health of the puppies that they're selling.
Okay.
And it would be up to the breeder. If a puppy doesn't sell, it would be up to the breeder as to what was going to happen with that puppy, but in general, a
Okay.
reputable breeder would probably, again, that puppy should have received adequate socialization, that he or she would be a well-adjusted adult dog, or juvenile dog in that case, and hopefully they would find a rescue that would help that dog.
Nice.
But for the most part, puppies tend to sell early, and the problem is with disreputable breeders that they will sell puppies that are less than 8 weeks old to keep their turnover going.
Okay.
And especially with large breed dogs, because they could pass them off as 8 or 9 weeks, but they may be 6 weeks old or even less than that. And it's not healthy for puppies at that age to be taken away from their mom and their litter mates.
Okay, then what is your job? How do you help them when they come to you?
Right. Well, I'm the behavior and training manager, and that means I run the behavior program. And it's an all volunteer program. And I want to say, first of all, that we have a crew of 20 some odd volunteers that have a lot of experience with dogs, and many of whom are really gifted when it comes to the subtle body language that they've used with dogs and handling techniques and everything. They're really experts in terms of knowing how to relate to and handle very, very fearful dogs. So we're very fortunate to have our volunteers. In fact, volunteer engagement at National Mill Dog Rescue is among the best I've ever seen in any organization.
Wow.
And so the rehabilitation team, as we mentioned previously, the first part of National Mill Dog Rescue's mission statement is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome. And so the rehabilitation.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. The 3 words.
Rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah. And so where we come in is at the rehabilitation stage, at least for behavior, because there are often a lot of medical issues too. It sounds like a no-brainer, but there's lots of research that shows that puppy mill survivors have tons of medical issues. And by the way, their puppies do too. It's very common for puppies that come from puppy mills, that are the puppies that are sold in pet stores, have all kinds of illnesses, and many of them are genetic because they weren't properly crossbred, and they may have other issues as well. And so, in fact, it sounds like common sense, but there are studies that show that not only do puppy mill survivors have a lot of very severe medical and behavioral issues, but puppies from puppy mills that are sold in pet stores often have a lot more medical issues than puppies.
Can you go into that just a little bit more? Because then, like I said, if we've got them at home at 8, 10, 12 weeks, and again, as we know, behavior can manifest, physical problems can manifest as behavior problems.
That's right. Yeah, if a dog's in pain, and that's a great observation, Meg, because the first step with any dog that has any kind of behavior issues is to check them out medically. You're absolutely right. A dog that's in pain can obviously manifest that pain as what we call behavior issues. They may be withdrawn, they may be fearful, they may be sensitive to handling, they may be aggressive. They may snarl, snap, bite when they're handled, and that making sure that they are not in pain can go a long way to helping work toward the resolution of the behavior issues. In some cases, resolve them completely. Dental disease is very common. Well, it's very common in a lot of dogs, actually, but it's unfortunately extremely common in puppy mill survivors. And dental disease often leads to death in a lot of dogs. This is true with any dogs at all. You're supposed to brush your dog's teeth once a day. That's what veterinarians will recommend to you. I admit I don't brush my dog's teeth once a day. It takes a lot of diligence to do that. But if you don't practice good dental care, then a lot of dogs do end up dying from infections, secondary infections. And in puppy mill survivors, obviously, they frequently have a lot of dental issues. And, mouth pain I've seen it in lots and lots of dogs, dozens, possibly hundreds of dogs. where it's having a dental, having bad teeth extracted, etc., can turn them around behaviorally.
I know that so well, right, Meg?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Tess about that because we've got Banks that is probably in the room. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Maybe
What
about
happened to him?
about Perry.
About
So
Perry, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
who,
Perry.
He came across as a rescue that kept getting rehomed through the rescue without a lot of background, but it's basically, he's this good-looking, cute poodle, which is now very obvious that he's a poodle, and he has always been difficulties for his behavior, but we kept going back and making sure we could check anything medical. But with his behavior issues, wanting to be aggressive and biting anyone touching him, the last thing a lot of people would do is check his mouth. Where when the behavior really escalated for me, and I was finding all the techniques I could pull out of my bag and flower essences, I'm like, that's it. No one's looking in his mouth because he's always muzzled. I'm like, I'm putting him in for a dental. That's all we're going to do. Like, we're just going to take it from there on blindly, not actually to look inside. Well, of course, he came out with no teeth. He has a broken jaw that's only connected on one side. The other side, the only muscles holding his whole little mouth together. So yeah, he has he came in happy to be in a home, but his behavior just got worse and worse because his pain was getting worse and worse. And that was his way of showing me, I'm in pain. I'm being aggressive and and not communicating with you. And so that's exactly what I feel too, that dental is the most important part of taking care of our dog's health. And it does have a lot to do with the behavior. And
and dental is important, but obviously general medical is important as well. The puppy mill survivors that we get can have all kinds of conditions. They might have tumors. They might have injuries, all the way from abrasions to broken bones. And obviously, these are all things that can be very uncomfortable, if not extremely painful. And so the first thing to do always is to get the dogs checked out medically. Make sure we understand what it is about the dogs that might, that needs medical treatment. And then from there, at least we can control the variables and know that behavior problems are in fact behavior problems and they're not actually
working with some of the slaughterhouse rescues and the meat dogs from Asia and South America, etc. You mentioned that. Oh, and even again, the hunting beagles here, the beagles that are raised to hunt in rabbit cages. You said that they often are standing on the wire cage, so it's like a wire crate, but all four sides, no solid footing. What can we do to help those feet now? What do you guys do?
Well, actually, that's more of a question for a veterinarian than it is for a behavior consultant.
Okay.
But obviously, the feet can often be raw, abraded, and so they need, obviously, they would probably need treatment for infection and then just treatment to treat the wounds and have them heal.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, we've got a vet on in a couple of weeks, and I will definitely, try to back into this conversation again with her. Glenn, tell us more. Tell us about, how and what is done to get them into a loving forever home. How do you do that?
Sure. Well, I'm going to speak specifically about the dogs that need behavioral rehabilitation, obviously, because that's my specialty.
Okay.
And as you can guess, we really prepare our potential adopters so that they understand specifically what to expect, because puppy mill survivors on average are quite different from other rescue dogs. They, again, can have frequent medical problems. They often have behavior issues that we work very hard at National Mill Dog Rescue to work toward resolving. But in some cases, of course, the dogs go home and still have behavior issues to some extent. And adopters, we try to make sure that the adopters understand that, because it does take a special kind of person to work with a very fearful dog in general. And again, the puppy mill survivors, for the most part, are fearful to some extent, and in some cases, extremely fearful. Patience is the key. Our doctors need to be as patient as possible, and we need to absolutely make sure that they are patient, if they understand the commitment that they're making. In some cases, these dogs that they're adopting won't be easy to integrate into their homes. They will need a lot of help, a lot of management, a lot of care, and in some cases, behavior modification. And so our doctors are a breed apart, so to speak.
Absolutely.
It's up to us, obviously, to educate the adopters as well. That's a big part of it. But meanwhile, when the dogs are at the shelter, our rehabilitation team, again, all volunteer, amazing people. They work with me. I set up the program and the training plans and everything like that. And they work on helping the dogs resolve their behavior issues, which again is 99% fear behaviors. And so we do all kinds of desensitization and counter conditioning. We are very, very patient. It's important for us to be patient as well, as much as possible. Let the dogs always have a choice and take everything at their own speed. And we want to get them prepared for home life. So that means having them be okay with being picked up and handled, and being around people, and even possibly being around strangers. And leash walking is a big one too, because obviously a lot of people want or need to walk their dogs on a leash. And in a lot of cases, the puppy mill survivors have never experienced anything like that. And if you put a leash on one and just let them go, they'll just flail and gator roll and run away. It's a terrible thing to see. And so that's all of the work we do in the rehabilitation department.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then,
That's a lot.
of course, then how are you able to support them once they're in the home? Are you able to conference with them?
Well, at this point, with the resources that we have, we have the doctors are for the most part responsible for any behavior modification that the dogs might need. If there's any severe issues, obviously, I would definitely get on the phone with them and talk them through it. But in terms of the short to medium term, long term behavior work that the dogs need, we are working on a list of vetted behavior consultants that we can refer our adopters to make sure that they have the very best care in terms of behavior.
Well, it sounds like, these adopters are well screened and well vetted before they're even chosen to match up with one of these dogs, right?
Well screened and well vetted, more so than any other organization I've ever worked with.
That's great.
Okay. And now I'm going to embarrass you just a touch, because really, Glenn, I've known you for a while now. We met, I don't know how many years ago, at a conference possibly. And I was taking notes to get ready for this interview. And I thought, if I tell Glenn that I have been following his career, I don't know how that's going to come across, but you're like my Brad Pitt of the animal advocacy world. I have followed your career, and all of your work, really, Glenn, is outstanding. And I know you're shy, and I know you're quiet, and you don't like to brag, but this National Mill Dog Rescue is so lucky to have you. And we're lucky that you came on for a second time, and I hope there'll be a third time, right?
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, I feel very fortunate to have this opportunity to work with National Mill Dog Rescue, because working with fearful dogs is really, for me, the most important part of behavior modification, because those are the dogs that need the most work and the most patience, and are really the most difficult to get to a point, to resolve the issues to the point where they can go home. And so I feel very fortunate to have such a really expansive opportunity to help dogs like that. Now, National Mill Dog Rescue is a very special organization, and in terms of both helping the dogs and again, in terms of educating the public as to the really awful realities of the puppy mill industry and the dog breeding industry. Their website again is NMDR. Our website. I've only been here for a month, so I'm still getting used to it. But I love the organization. I'm actually very, very happy to be in Colorado Springs as well. I'm a big trail runner and mountain biker, and so I'm in hog heaven here when it comes to mountains. And so if you'd like to check out more about National Mill Dog Rescue, the website is NMDR, as in National Mill Dog Rescue.org, NMDR.org. And I invite you to check out our adoptable dogs. They are really, really wonderful. They're all wonderful, wonderful, wonderful little souls, and all deserve loving homes, as all rescue dogs do, obviously.
Glenn, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And you're also, you're here live on Facebook. It's recorded so people can come back and view it. And you're also on our podcast, as is Sam Wyke from New Jersey, on our podcast, brand new, Animals Inside Out. So thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Tess.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Meg. Glenn, you have a heart of gold, and they are really lucky that you're there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
thank
they
you.
are. Yeah.
So
thanks, Glenn.
Thank you too. I'm lucky to be here as well, and I thank you both.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you. You got it, Tess?
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
I know. Wonderful, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.